welcome to another week of Clip Studio Paint tutorial. This is going to be a super fun week because I finally get to talk about something I've always wanted to cover. If you have watched all of the previous tutorials, you would know that Clip Studio Paint is particularly strong for drawing and painting and was originally designed for comic book use. But there is one more powerful feature that rarely gets talked about, and that is going to be our final topic for the Clip Studio Paint tutorial series, animations. Animation can be super daunting to get into. And by daunting, I mean seriously, what the f? Don't know what half of those buttons mean? Don't worry, I don't either. But that's why it's so exciting for me, because I get to do my homework so that you don't have to. And you're just going to have to trust me. Clip Studio Paint is fully capable of creating frame-by-frame 2D animation. It is also capable of twinning, adding camera panning, and adding audio tracks. Before we get started, there is some terminology I'd like to explain. If you've never animated before, this terminology is going to help you tremendously in understanding how animations are built. And if you already know how to animate, then this tutorial will help you adapt your knowledge in Clip Studio Paint. There are 4 key components in building animation in Clip Studio Paint, and they're timeline, frames, cels, and animation folders. The very first thing you have to have in animation is a timeline. A timeline decides how long your animation is going to be. Is it 1 second, 5 seconds, 1 minute, 30 minutes? And directly nested inside a timeline is frames. Frames decide how smooth your animation is going to look. You may have heard about the term frames per second. The general gist of it is that if there are more frames within a second, the smoother it's going to look. And of course, the more labor intensive it is. Side note, Clip Studio Paint Pro is capped at 24 frames, whereas the EX version can have unlimited amount of frames. Next up is cels. Cels is short for celluloid, a transparent sheet used in traditional animations. Cels are what contain your drawing, and they have to be assigned to frames in order to become visible. And only one cel can be visible in a frame, so choose wisely. But that is not technically true, because there's something called animation folders. In order for things to move, frames and cels have to sit inside an animation folder. Anything outside of animation folder is going to be static. The very, very important information about animation folder is that they act like layers in your regular paintings. Repeat after me. Animation folders act like layers. This is super important, so burn it into your brain. There are 2 panels that you will want to enable for animation. Under Window, turn on Animation Cels and Timeline. Timeline is where you will be navigating your animation. An animation cel is where you manage light table and references. To start animating is very easy. Click on New File, switch to Animation tab, and change your settings from here. Now there is a lot going on here, so we're only going to worry about the resolution and also the timeline. Let's stick to the preset for resolution, but for frame rate, change it to 24 frames. The reason for that is because Clip Studio Paint Pro users are capped at 24 frames. If your frame rate is 24 frames per second, you will get 1 second animation. Now, if you change this to 12, then you will get 2 seconds of animation. Likewise, if you change it to 8, then you will get 3 seconds of animation. And I explain that because I wanted to show off my extraordinary mathematical skills. Actually, let's change it to 12, so we can have a 2-second animation. Playback time is the total seconds of your animation times frame rate. In this case, because we want 2 seconds of animation times 12, so that's 24. Once you hit OK, an animation file will be auto-generated with a timeline, frames, cel, and animation folder. The blue bars indicate the starting frame and ending frame when you hit play, and each section of gray indicates 1 second. The numbers on the timeline can also tell you what second you are on or what frame you are on. So hopefully that helped you understand the numbers on the screen a little bit better, because I sure didn't understand it before. Now on to the next part, the relationship between frames and cels. In this step, we're going to pay attention to 4 buttons. Go to previous frame, go to next frame, new animation cel, and specify cel. This is a cel, and right now we're going to draw a number 1 in it. Actually, why just draw a 1 when you can have this? I mean, I am the one with bear after all. And now we're going to hit go to next frame and new animation cel. By doing so, you will see number 2 automatically shows up in your layer palette and number 1 is hidden. These layers inside of an animation folder are cels, and only one cel is visible at a time. To make it clear, let's enable onion skin. Onion skin lets you see a previous cel and the next cel. But right now we don't have anything in the next cel, so we're only seeing the first cell. Onion skin is extremely important in animating as it allows you to compare the position of your drawing live. And from this point on, it is as simple as next frame, add new cell, draw, next frame, add new cell, draw. Rinse and repeat. If you do exactly that, the cells will automatically be named in order. But wait, what happened here? Let's try duplicating the issue. Right now we have 5 cells in order. Each cell has their corresponding number in them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, because the last one was a mistake. And now I want to duplicate number 4 and turn it into number 5. So I have number 4 selected and we'll go into layer, duplicate layer. When you duplicate a cell that is not the end cell, you will automatically create another cell that has a letter behind it. So if I keep duplicating this, you will see 4A, B, C, D, E, etc. But right now, cell 4A is not assigned to any frame. So we're going to insert a frame between frame 4 and 5 to make space for it. We'll select frame 4, right-click on your mouse, and insert frame. Choose however many frames that you want to insert, and make sure you have selected layers only checked. And hit OK. So this automatically gave cell 4 an extra frame. Select the added frame and hit specify cells and choose 4A. Enable onion skin so we can see cell 4 and cell 6. Drag this one over and turn it into 5. And now the numbers are corresponding to the frames. But now I want the cell numbers to match as well. So you're going to hit those 3 little bars. Wait, that's 3, right? Edit track, rename in timeline order. And voila, now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you're thinking, wow, that was complicated. All I wanted to do was just insert a duplicated cell. You're right, it's unnecessarily complicated. Like for the past 7 weeks, I've been talking about saving time, but now I have to duplicate, I have to insert a frame, I have to reassign, and then rename. Unacceptable. But don't worry, that's what I'm here for. To simplify these commonly used steps, we're going to be using Auto Action. Go under Window, Auto Action. Auto Action records actions that are repetitive in nature and can be assigned to hotkeys to speed things up. They're useful in many ways, but particularly useful for animation as animating can be very tedious. So let's create a set that's just for animation. Let's name this one Duplicating a Cell. Once you have this in place, right-click on it and hit Start to record auto action. From this point on, you simply perform the actions you wish to automate. You will see the performed steps recorded in the auto action panel. Once you've performed all steps, check off Start to Record. Aside from duplicating cell, I also recorded an action for adding frame and another for deleting frame. You can then assign hotkeys to these actions in shortcut settings. I also recommend having a hotkey for specified cells so you can easily duplicate a cell then assign it right away by pressing 2 hotkeys. Let's see how this looks now. Let's hit play. That's not too bad. But at the same time, I don't have anything after frame 14. So I'm going to drag this blue bar back to where frame 14 is. Make sure I have loop play on and then play it again. Now it will only play from frame 1 to 13. And at the moment, I'm pretty happy with the bear swinging to the right. But what if I want it to swing back towards the left? So let's expand this blue bar again. This is where the renaming comes in handy. Go to Edit Track, Rename in Timeline Order again. After doing some minor adjustment on my end to make sure that all of the things are aligned, I'm going to select frame 14, click on the 3 bars again, going to Edit Track, and Batch Specify Cells. Let's change the start number to cell 12 and then going all the way back to the beginning and hit OK. It'll automatically fill the sequence in order. And because we told it to start at cell 12 and end at cell 1, so it's going in reverse. But it ran out of space because we only have 24 frames, so cell number 1 is nowhere to be seen. And now let's see what it looks like. Aww. Well, not too bad for something under 5 minutes, I guess. Another thing is that if you have a much larger project and you want to move a particular clip, say I want this entire sequence to be moved somewhere later, hover over this bar on the top, click on it, you will know your position is right when you see the cursor turns into a little hand. And now the entire clip is highlighted. Now simply just drag it to somewhere else. Now let's pretend my line art was completely done and was very masterful. We're going to add some color and we want to put colors on another layer. And what are layers again in animating? Don't tell me you already forgot. Good job, I totally believe that you remember animation folders are layers. So right now we have an animation folder containing 13 cells. We're going to name it line art. Create another animation folder by clicking on New Animation Folder. And let's put this folder underneath the line art and call it Colors. And with the new animation folder selected, click on New Animation Cell. Since these animation folders are equivalent to layers in your regular paintings, they're capable of using all layer properties such as layer mode, reference layer, and also layer effects. We will use reference layer and the super efficient close and fill as example. If you're not familiar with close and fill, check out our previous tutorial covering this amazing feature. On your line art animation folder, hit this button here, set as reference layer. And now go back to your color cell and have the close and fill tool selected. Make sure your refer multiple is set to reference layer. Now just use it like how you would in regular paintings. Afterward, it's just a matter of going to next frame, add new cell, fill, next frame, and new cell, fill. I have my next frame and add new cell set to hotkeys adjacent to each other. So the process is so fast that I don't even need to automate the reverse frame. And the crazy thing is that even these steps that I just used could be recorded for auto action. And as suggested before, all of these folders, they're capable of using layer modes or effects. If I somehow want to have a really cool border effect, I can simply do that. Just to make a point, and they'll apply it to the entire folder. Aside from being able to fully adapt the rest of the software into the animation aspect, Clip Studio Paint also has another important feature for animation, the light table. Unlike the onion skin that shows you the previous and next cells, think of light table as a reference sheet that is always there but not actually impacting your cells. There are two types of light tables under the animation cell panel: display light table specific to cell and display common light table for canvas. Oh, come on. Why? It is a little difficult to explain without visual examples, so I drew a panda on the first cell as well as added 3 extra empty cells on the timeline. We will start with a common light table for canvas on the bottom. Just drag any cell that you will want to use as reference into this panel. And now you will see a semi-transparent panda reference on the rest of the frames. This means that your cell 1 is now used as a reference. Then you can use Operation Light Table tool to alter this reference without changing cell 1. So how is it different than the middle panel? Let's say we want to add in an outside reference just for cell 3. Make sure you have the cell in the middle panel selected and hit Select and Register File. Port in your outside source and the reference will be only attached to the cell. And now I can use the Light Table tool again to adjust this reference. And if I want to rotate this panda without affecting the other ones, what I can do is I can turn this off and then drag cell 1 into the middle panel. And just like that, you will have an independent reference for cell 3. So, long story short, the references in the bottom panel goes across the entire timeline, whereas the references in the middle panel are cell specific. That may not seem like much because the drawings were so simple, but in animation, sometimes you have to work in something really complex. So the ability to easily adjust your references and trace over them is very significant. We're almost at the end. Hang in there, guys. After you finish with your file and you want to export it as a GIF or video file, you just go under File, Export Animation. There are other options, but we are going to focus on GIF, sticker, and movie because they're more commonly used in online sharing. It is honestly very straightforward from this step on. Choose the one you want to output, pick the location you want, you hit save. It's going to tell you the resolution. So this resolution is going to include whatever that is within the blue border. And the export range is going to autofill from the first blue bar to the last blue bar. You can leave the rest if the frame per second doesn't change. So to put it simply, if you hit the play button and you're happy with what you see, then you don't have to change anything in here. Then you just hit OK. It'll tell you what file size it's gonna be, and then hit OK again. It is pretty much as simple as that. Animated sticker can have transparency. If I don't want any white background for this animation, I just turn off the paper layer and I go into Export Animation, Animated Sticker. It will change the size to smaller for online use, but you can adjust it to what you want. You can also select Delete Blank Spaces and Color Reduction to save on size. The output image size is a little smaller because we asked it to delete the blank space. so it cropped off the top, bottom, and the side. Now there is your animation with transparency background. You can just drag it into your browser to preview. Lastly, it's exporting movies, which is super straightforward. Make sure your frame rate, your size are correct, and hit OK. And now you have a video. We did it! We animated! If you found all of that to be super confusing, please don't feel frustrated. Animation is a huge topic to dive into. I find that the best way to learn and adapt is to actually follow along during tutorials, so you can understand and also remember where the tools are a little bit easier. Overall speaking, animating in Clip Studio Paint is actually very straightforward. Since it is a very traditional frame-by-frame type of animation, you really just go to the frame that you want, add a new cell, draw, and that's it. But I had trouble understanding the relationship between things and how it was built, and that's why I wanted to focus on the most fundamental stuff in the UI itself. But there's actually so much more for animation than Clip Studio Paint. I highly recommend checking out the YouTube video that Ruben Lara made covering on keyframing, audio tracks, and camera panning. And as promised before, I am giving away 2 copies of Clip Studio Paint EX. To enter to win, leave a comment down below to tell us what feature in Clip Studio Paint that you like the most. I will draw the winners on May the 31st and announce them on my Instagram and Twitter. And before I leave, shout out to Wacom for making this series possible. This entire tutorial series was done and edited on the amazing Wacom One. For more information about this affordable tablet, you can check out my unboxing and review on my Instagram. It's also bundled with Clip Studio Paint, but I'm totally not biased. And that is it, guys! Remember, if you have any question, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at TheOneWithBear. I will be very happy to help. Stay healthy, and I'll see you around.